Yeah. You know what time it is. Welcome back to Marshall Time, episode 64. What's going on, bro?
What's up, bro? How you doing?
Man, it's a good time of the year. The weather's starting to break through here on the East Coast. It was a cold winter, but I can sense the spring breaking through, which means it's the best time of year for hoop heads. Whether you like college ball, professional ball, this is the best time. You got March Madness already in action. Got the conference tournaments. I've been checking out some games when I can. And then the NBA playoffs around the corner. So we got a lot to talk. I mean, from March to June, it's a lot to talk about when it comes to hoops. Obviously, with the draft as well, the lottery coming up. I think the lottery is in May, right? So you got the lottery, a lot of conversation about that. Where will the Sixers land? All these teams tanking to try to capture the flag. We'll talk about our favorite prospects. Then you got the playoffs. So I'm excited. I love this time of year. You know, I'm a huge college fan. And so before we get started into the professional realm, we want to talk about the college game for a little bit. Now, I know the bracket isn't going to be released. Selection Sunday is this coming Sunday. So obviously the conference tournaments have to finish out through the weekend. And then the brackets will be revealed on Sunday. But I feel like you still have an idea of the team or teams that you're pretty much going to ride with. We know that matchups play a huge part. These are college kids. You never know what might be going on. They can catch fire. Look at was it Oakland last year that caught
Mm-hmm.
fire against Kentucky? Like that one guy forgot his name.
The
You know what I'm talking
shooter,
about
yeah,
though.
yeah, the
Yeah,
shooter. He
you
hurt
had
himself a G
DJ.
League trial off of
That's what I'm saying.
that.
You had DJ Burns and NC State. Who would have thought they ran the table in the ACC? Had no business outside of winning the conference tournament. They were not a tournament team, and so that's what makes it so crazy. That's what makes the bracket so unpredictable. But I will say, the past 2 years, bro, I've picked UConn, and they haven't failed me. And so I'm using the same formula this year as far as a team that I feel like I can trust the most because my philosophy is which team presents the most room for error. If the shot's not falling, can they create off the bounce? Do they have a solid guard rotation? That's huge. Do they have a couple guys who can play at the pro level? Do they have seniors? Do they have experience? And do they have bigs that can actually play? Bigs that can rebound, bigs that can actually play ball, that aren't just tall, that aren't just big, that actually skill. And so with that formula, I've picked the team that I feel like I've got that same, not saying they're UConn, but I got the same trust. As much trust as you can have come tournament time. So I'll present my team, and then we can talk about your team and maybe some other teams that we like. But the team that I like right now, without having a bracket, because things can change with matchups. We'll see. Injuries happen. Cooper Flag already got hurt. That's going to change a lot of people's thoughts if he can't play, right? So the team that I'm going with right now, without a bracket being seen or presented to me right now, I like the team from the SEC. It's not Tennessee. It's not Auburn. It's not Alabama. We're going with those Gators, boy.
mm.
I've been watching this team because 2 years ago when I was watching a random UConn game in January, and I was like, "Yo, these guys are hooping! Like half court set. They got shooters. They got pros. They got big guys." This was a squad that they had Andre Jackson. They had Donovan Clingan. I think he was a freshman that year. Um, they just had a squad before all the other guys that graduated. They were better. They were better than last year's UConn squad. I don't know what it clicked for me recently watching Florida. Like this is the best basketball team I've seen. I know Auburn, Duke, Houston, they're great. Alabama is great. Looking at the resume of Florida, though, look at who they've beaten. They've beaten an Auburn. They've beaten the Tennessee, and they just beat Alabama. Knowing how tough the SEC is, let me just double check that just to make sure. But I'm pretty sure um, they've uh, they've beaten those schools that I've just mentioned. I don't want to. I don't want to. Let me just double check. Yeah, so this was when Tennessee was number one in the country. They beat Tennessee 73-43. They lost to Tennessee in February, but it happens. They beat Auburn when they were number one, and they recently beat Alabama. I look at their lineup, the guard rotation of Walter Clayton, Will Richard, Elijah Martin, who came from FAU, the Florida Atlantic team, Denzel Aberdeen. Then their big guy rotation. Alex Condon, I looked at ESPN's mock draft. He's a first round pick, quiet as kept. If you haven't watched Florida, Alex Condon, you can't miss him. Big guy, but he's skilled, can pass it, can move, can run the floor, can shoot it. Thomas Hall, Ruben Chinyelu, Michael Hondlickton. So you got 4, even 5 guards, honestly, for Florida. Urban Klazvar is a nice rotational piece off the bench. You got 1, 2, 3, you have 5 guards, 4 solid bigs that can do everything. I feel like Florida is a team that can combat issues that they may face. If you're in foul trouble, if a guy has to sit out for injury, they have depth. They like to push the pace. They like to score. So if this team is hitting on all cylinders, you got to be able to score with this team because they can put up numbers. And if that happens, if that team is running and gunning, which is how they want to play, you're in trouble. But also, half court wise, they can get it done as well. And so the team that I feel like has the most room for error to me is Florida. And it's rare that Auburn and Duke have been talked about all season, but sometimes that makes me nervous, right? Florida's just been like waiting in the wings. I think they're 4th right now. They've been top 5 consistently, but they're that team that they're there. People know that they're good, but it's all about Auburn and Duke this year. So I kind of I just got a good feeling about Florida. With respect to Auburn, I love what Auburn's about. I would probably have them in the Final Four, but there's something about Auburn that I don't know. Something, especially lately. I feel the same with Houston too. Like I like their makeup and what they do, but there's something that I just can't. I feel like there's going to be a game in the tournament where the offense is just struggling and it's going to bite them. So I'm going with Florida.
Yeah, I'm not mad at the Florida pick. It's actually a sneaky pick that a lot of people aren't going to really talk about, but they should be named in that mix because, like you said, when it comes to all around team and guard play, they're right up there at the top. And they're able to put up a lot of points. They're able to get up and down, shoot the three, and they're able to defend at a good rate too. But my pick, man, team that I've been watching all year, and I mean, obviously, it depends on the health of one player right now, Cooper Flag. But
Mm-hmm.
from the reports that I've seen, it said that his ankle looks like it'll be okay. He didn't stay in the locker room. He was on the bench. So if everything's good with him, if he's able to play at a decent rate, it may not be 100%, even if it's 90, 85. I'm still picking Duke. I think Cooper Flag is that big of an impact player, especially at the college level. The way he just off his defense alone, we don't even have to talk about his offense. We know his offense. He still has some work to do, but the way he plays, he's poised right for a freshman. He plays smart on offense. He knows when to pass, knows when to shoot. That corner three for him has been great down the stretch this year. Teams you can't really sag off of him. He can blow by you 1 or 2 dribbles, and he's great in transition. And his defensive presence, like, come on, bro. We know he can guard on the wing, he can guard in the paint. You know what I mean? He can guard in transition, chase down blocks, whatever you need, steals, lane steals, all of that. He's there. On top of that, you got Proctor, you got Knuppel. He had a huge game today when Cooper Flag went out. And that game earlier today, man, that showed a lot about that team, right? They were getting blown out. They started to make a little run. Their best player goes down. You know what? Somebody else has to step up. I think Knuppel had ended up with 28. He played a great game, willed his team to victory. Those are the type of battle tested victories you need, especially late down in March, and going into early April. That's what they need. Also, my boy Isaiah Evans coming off the bench. When you talk about it, just a fun player to watch, and he's really good too. If you like pure ballers and you like shooters, watch him. As soon as that ball touches his hand, it's up. He gets high. He has a high release. He has a high jump. Hard for people to contest him. And he's going to let you know it. He's been like that since high school, and he's carrying it on to college. You know what I mean? I'm not a Duke fan at all, but just from what I've been watching, a team that has like they may not be as good. They give me vibes of the AD Kentucky team. Now, not to say they're as good as that, but it's just the way AD was on defense. Cooper Flag is similar to that, just everywhere on defense. It's not quite like AD because AD was a little better at this point in his
Yeah,
college
yeah.
career, but just that same energy. And then Isaiah Evans, he gives me the swag of Devin Booker off the bench, even though him and AD was different Kentucky teams. Devin Booker, a lot of people didn't know, in Kentucky, he was just a shooter off the bench for them, but he was a
Mm-hmm.
bucket, just like Isaiah Evans. And it just reminds me of that team, of those two teams, like a mix of both of those teams. I really do like Duke. I have another team in mind, but we'll talk about that. But if you had to give me one team to pick, I got to give it to Duke just because I think Cooper Flag is that good and just make that big of an impact.
Cooper's the real deal. I mean, every team that's trash should be trying to grab the flag, man. Like it's nah, he is the real deal. It's just I just pause and I'm like, man, they're relying on a lot of freshmen. I know Proctor, he's experienced, he's a junior, right? They have the Gillis from Purdue. I just, the young guys are talented. It's just, man, it's rare to see a team that relies on that many freshmen, win it all. And if Cooper Flag is able to pull that off, yeah, like it's no question that he is the number one player in the country right now. Now, what about teams that you have an eye on? You're just putting like a little, asterisk by it. You're not totally sold for different reasons. I got a couple teams. I like St. John's. I mean, I'm Big East biased. You know what I mean? Like, you like Villanova. I grew up like in Georgetown, outside of North Carolina, Syracuse. Like, I've always enjoyed just Big East basketball. And St. John's to me is like restoring, just to see St. John's back again, to see them, Madison Square Garden being lit on Saturdays, Rick Pitino on the sidelines, the way they play, like they lock up, they defend. The only question is, come tournament time, if a team is shooting the lights out, can St. John's do the same thing as shooting the suspect? But they will make you uncomfortable. And if you're not used to the great thing about the tournament is conference play is interesting because you're familiar with these players, their tendencies, these teams, so you're not really surprised by much when Auburn and Alabama face off, right? Or even if it's seemingly a mismatch, these teams are familiar with each other, so it's not going to be no conference game is going to be just a gimme. It's going to be tough in some sense. But these teams that are not used to playing at St. John's or Houston, it's going to be tough if you're not used to playing against these teams that have this size, the speed, the overall athleticism. Rick Pitino arguably is the best coach in the tournament. You got Tom Izzo. Who else? I mean, there are some great coaches that are going to be in the field, but Rick Pitino, like, would you put a coach above Rick Pitino just off of background, resume, like in the field right now? Tom Izzo's a great coach, but I'm not putting him above Rick Pitino, pound for pound. And so coaching is crucial. And so with St. John's, I'm like, man, I can easily have them in my Final Four, Elite Eight for sure. But it's just that shooting part. Can I trust it? Another team I like Maryland. That starting five, all guys put up double figures. I love Derek Queen's game. Angel Reese's sister. I mean, not sister, brother. Let me get his name right. Hold on. What is his name? Julian Reese. So having Julian Reese and Derek Queen playing together, that's a solid front court. I like Maryland, but they're top heavy. Outside of that starting five, that first five is like, if one of those guys gets in foul trouble, if Queen or Reese gets in foul trouble, one of those guards gets in foul trouble, who do you have? And so I'm looking at St. John's. I like Maryland. A part of me likes this. I'm not saying like they're going to go far, but I don't know. Kentucky, they might be a sneaky team. I just got a feeling. I'm gonna just leave it at that. But yeah, those are the three teams that I think Michigan State is a team that should be looked at for sure. But St. John's, Maryland, and Kentucky, those are like three teams that I like. I got my eye on. I'm not ready to like Final Four just yet.
Yeah, honestly, St. John's, that's my second pick.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, the shooting piece is the only thing, and it's shooting from the three. But
Yeah.
I look at them and I say, the way the game is played now, a lot of teams kind of play it into how they want to defend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they make you take tough shots, they make you turn the ball over, and they
Mm-hmm.
rebound, they close out possessions. That's going to be so critical come tournament time. And you watch the game today, they can go on runs where like,
Mm-hmm.
bro, your team might not score for a few minutes, and that could take that could kill your confidence in March, and that could
Mm-hmm.
take your team out the game. If they get three stops in a row, they're going to score. They're going to end up scoring. Then they do it again. They're going to end up scoring. You know what I mean? I can just see that happening to a lot of teams. And the thing that's interesting about them, they don't shoot the three well, but Rick Pitino has made their offense in such a way that they're still able to put up points because they push it in transition, and also
Mhm.
they do a good job of getting it into the paint, whether it's playing off a two, whether it's a back cut, you know what I mean, diving down off a screen, things like that. It's just like it's a different brand of basketball than what we're seeing in the NBA and in the college game for that matter. So, like you said, we're a little bit biased because of the Big East thing, but at the end of the day, they're a team that really
They're a
plays
good
D.
team.
There, when you play D and rebound, you
Yeah.
honestly can be in any game. And then who's to say they can't have a good shooting night at the right time? You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
basketball. You know these guys they practice every day. They might somebody might get hurt. A guy like RJ Lewis might get hot come tournament time. That's all they
Mm-hmm.
really need. All they
Yeah.
really need. But their defense, like from what I've seen this year, it's up there with some of the best defenses we've seen in recent history. Think about the UConn teams. You think about the Baylor team with Davion Mitchell. Their defense is
Mm-hmm.
from that cloth. Like when you watch them play, they're so aggressive. And like you spoke about Rick Pitino. Another team I have my eye on for sure is Houston. I feel like we say this every year, and
Yeah.
but the truth is they're always in that mix every year. This guy get
Yeah.
over the hump, and I want to see their coach finally get it done.
Yeah. Kelvin
Um,
Sampson.
Want to see Sampson get it done. But their team, I mean, bro, they still got LJ Cryer. Their
Yeah.
team's just listen, bro. They could do it. It's just that's the team that I'm like, just because I feel like we always say this about them. And other than that, man, I think it's up for grabs for everybody else. I always keep my eye on Alabama just because I like how they've slowly
Yeah. Alabama's
transitioned
tough.
into a basketball school. Not fully, football's always going to rule, but their basketball team has become like respectable, and they know they're going to be competitive. But it's definitely St. John's is my number two, so that's definitely what I'm
Man.
looking at.
Houston is like they're always going to be there, right? And like I talked about, if you're not used to playing a certain style team during the season, if you're not in that conference, like St. John's is going to get. I'll give St. John's 2 wins off the strength of they're not if they don't play a Big East opponent, then
You see what I'm saying? It's like it's going to be like to me
it's
they've been
going to be
so
tough.
dominant. They've been dominant all year. Like
Like,
a lot of their wins have been blowouts. Like
yeah,
I look at that, and come tournament time, I could see them starting off right with two or three blowouts. I could see that.
if you're a conference winner of one of these smaller conferences and you're not used to playing a team like St. John's, that could be kind of especially if you're not relying upon like because a Oakland Kentucky situation can happen, right? But if you're not relying,
Yeah,
if you don't have like a guy that can shoot the lights out or a couple guys that can really shoot the lights out and get hot, you can get smoked off the floor.
bro,
And
early,
Houston's the same way. Like they play such a physical style. If you're not used to that, it's gonna get wrapped up early. My thing with Houston is, man, like that team. Remember the team that had Marcus Sasser and Jamal Shead? That
so much
backcourt.
talent,
That was
so
the
much
team that I
talent.
thought was going to break through.
Yeah, who
Just
did
like
they
the
end up losing?
Gonzaga.
Who did they lose to
I
that year?
forgot, but
Was it
somebody
Baylor?
got hurt. Somebody got hurt though.
Shed got hurt. I
Shed
think.
got hurt, and that
Who
pretty
did they
much.
lose?
I
This was
think
like
they
3 years
was it
ago,
Duke?
right?
Was it Duke? I think they
Did
lost
they
to
lose
Duke.
the dude?
I can't remember. I
We
I,
gotta
I
look
have
it
to
up.
look back. But
Yeah.
Shed got hurt, and that's when I was like, yeah, it's a wrap. It's a
Mhm.
wrap. Um, they were just like the Gonzaga team that had Rui. They had a squad, man. And I thought
Was
that was
Kiss
the best.
was that wasn't Kiss, was Kisper what? Kisper wasn't on the team,
It
was he?
was
Or was he young?
Kispert.
Kisper
I
was
think
on
it was
there.
Kispert, Rui.
They
They had it.
the
They had the big guy.
with
What's his name?
what with the stash?
Yeah,
Drew
that was the
Timmy.
squad. Yeah, I was like, man, they got
Drew
like
Timmy,
two
yeah, that was
legit
it. Yeah.
Kispert and Rui. You knew were going to be pros. I'm like, oh, this
Yeah.
Gonzaga squad might be. This might be the one to do it.
But I feel like
You know?
Gonzaga, ever since my whole life they've been, they're not gonna win. Houston is
Yeah.
like maybe half my life.
Hu-
Gonzaga's the ball. Even, I remember
Yeah.
when they had Adam Morrison and they still couldn't. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like we always knew
Hu-
they wasn't really
Hu-
gonna win.
Houston's just their style of play is it's so tough to practice and mimic. If you're not used to it, it's going to be tough. And so they're going to be there. Kelvin Sampson is one of the best ever to do it. It's just, am I ready? Like I said, I talk about that margin for error. Does Houston have a large margin of error? I mean, if the half court offense sometimes can get a little, you know what I mean? LJ Cryer is good, but the other guards, they kind of struggle with creating off the bounce and creating separation sometimes when I watch. And if you gotta, I watch and see how teams generate offense. Sometimes it looks too hard for team. If it looks too hard
Hmm.
sometimes for a team, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can trust that. Like,
Yeah.
I need you to generate. That's what made UConn so good because that half court was
Yeah.
just a machine. They were
Easy.
generating
Easy
easy
work.
buckets, like
Easy
whatever.
work.
And when I watch Florida, like the guys that can shoot and pass it from all different spots, it's like, okay, Alabama is sort of the same way, right? They have
Hmm.
guys that can get easy buckets. And so that's what caused me to pause about Houston. But man, it's going to be fun. Like I said, the brackets come out on Sunday. Our Tar Heels lost to Wake Forest. Oh no,
Bro,
we beat Wake
I
Forest.
was about to say y'all were
I'm
down, but
tripping.
y'all
I'm
came
tripping.
back.
I'm tripping. We beat Wake Forest, so I feel like that was the win that we needed to. I think we're like a last four in. Um, they had me nervous. I'm like, if you lose to Wake Forest, then you don't even
Yeah,
deserve to
it's a
like
wrap.
get
Yeah.
out of here. What about your Nova Wildcats? What y'all
Hey
going?
man,
Y'all need to win
listen.
out pretty much, right?
Yeah, but we've been playing better the second half of the year. Eric Dixon, like you brought to my attention, he leads the nation in scoring. He's playing like
That's
a true
crazy.
college vet. Yeah,
I
he
want
has
to
a
talk
solid
about him.
game. He has,
When
bro. He
when
has a
when I first saw him play as a freshman, he didn't look comfortable with the ball. Now he leaves.
yeah.
I'm like, what happened? So yeah,
Yeah, just development. A lot of times for players, it's just finding your game. A lot of players, they feel like they got to do too much, dribble, dribble. You don't got to do that. He has a face up game, low back to the basket. He got better at shooting the three ball, pick and pop. It's all about finding your game, and he has done that. Only like we end up getting Wooga popular from
I like Wooga.
he's from Philly kid.
Yeah.
Our point guard, oh, what's our point guard name? He's a Philly kid too. He was at LaSalle. Look him up real quick. What's his name? How did I forget his name? He's from LaSalle. He's short. He's only like he's like 5'11", but he can ball
I know
though.
who you're talking about. Hold on.
We got him.
Is it Jamar Brickus? Is that him?
Yeah, Bruckus. Yeah, yup.
Brickus,
Yeah,
yeah.
he can go. He
Yep.
went to LaSalle, transfer here.
Yeah, he a grad student, yeah.
Yeah, so we got some.
From
We got some
Coatesville,
Philly.
yep.
Yeah, we got some Philly kids on the team. We got to make this.
Kyle Neptune coaching for his job, right?
Yeah, yeah, and they're playing for him. They playing hard. We got a good double for Seton Hall, so we got to run the table. But it is it is what it is. We don't got too many expectations for them. But I just I'm happy that they're playing better. I'm happy they're playing better. What's Baylor's situation right now? What are they? Because I know they
uh
won, but do they need to win out too, or they are?
uh I feel like because they're I feel like Baylor's in a good spot, right? I mean, I don't think they have like, let me see.
I feel like they don't
The
have bad losses, but
Yeah,
I don't
they
know if
don't
they
have
have
like a
any
crazy
great
loss. They're in the Big
great
12.
wins either though. Like I feel
Um
like that.
Nova, your Nova boys play UConn. At the time of this recording, they're going to play they play UConn in a few minutes actually.
Well,
Um,
UConn that we could win that though. UConn hasn't been
yeah,
that as they haven't been to their standard this year.
Baylor's interesting. Because they're, huh? I'm not feeling Baylor as much as I usually do. I'm not really.
Yeah, I just asked because I like
I
VJ
like
Edgecombe
yeah,
and I like
yeah. I
Robert
like
Wright from Delaware. Hometown kid, and I love the way he plays.
so they
And I
10 and
just
10 in the they 10 and 10 in the conference, 19 and 14 overall. I'm pretty sure they're in.
if they so that's the thing. Like I feel like it'd just be interesting to see. I want to see some of these NBA prospects in the tournament because RJ I mean Dylan Harper and Bailey
Uh,
let me down, man. That
yeah,
wasn't a good
I was
year for.
watching that.
They
Yeah,
played, of course they played good individually during this year, but their team just wasn't playing winning basketball. And I would have loved to see them in the tournament. We're going to see Flag. Um, I don't know who else we're going to really see. What is Arkansas looking like? Because I don't know. I,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like we don't have. I want to see some of this NBA talent. The BYU is BYU going to be in it? I know they got
yeah.
Igor.
BYU
So you
should
know what I
be
mean.
in
I
there.
want to see
Yeah.
some more NBA talent that we're going to see in the upcoming draft. I want people to see these guys.
Well,
Because I feel like a lot of times.
You got Illinois. Go ahead. What you about to say?
Yeah, I just feel like a lot of times in recent years, a lot of these players get drafted, and a lot of people that don't know who they are because they're either overseas or their college team didn't do anything in the tournament. So it's kind of like, you know what I mean? I want to see, like, I miss when we was able to see John Morant and Zion and March Man and stuff like that. I want to see these guys, be in March Madness. I want to see it. It'd just be cool to see. And VJ
Yeah.
Edgecombe is right up there. You know what I mean? So we already got
BYU
Cooper
is
Flag.
17th. BYU
Okay.
17th, so
Yeah.
they're in the
Okay.
field.
Yeah. So we'll
Yeah, I
see.
mean,
We'll get to see Igor.
you got Derek Queen from at Maryland.
Yeah, we'll get to see Derek Queen. Okay. I just want to make sure we get to see some talent.
Alabama has some guys that'll go.
Does my boy still play for Alabama? 6'10". Oh, his last name was Nelson, right? What's that his
Yeah,
last name?
he's still on the squad. He went crazy last year against Carolina. I remember that game. He went crazy.
I love his game. I hope he
Cam Jones from Marquette. He's a hooper.
okay.
Danny Wolf, big guy from Michigan. I think
Danny
he's
Wolf
fun
the
to
hooper.
watch.
Yeah.
He I think he's a first round pick. So I mean, there are you know some talented young guys that we'll be able to see. But more often than not, we see these experienced teams that are always
Mm.
able to break through. So um, it'll be fun though. I'm excited. Brackets come out Sunday, so yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out. We'll definitely see how it all shakes out. All right, moving on to the pros. I sent you a video clip of an interview of Rich Paul, who is LeBron James' agent, doing an interview. Um, what was this? It was on ESPN. Yeah, it was the Pat McAfee show. And this is a clip, and I'm just going to read the quote that was tweeted out. Cousy and Pistol, Bob Cousy and Pistol Pete Maravich, were great for their time. What would Kyrie do in that time? They didn't even make shoes to handle the style of play for a guy like Kyrie. We want to be respectful to the ones before, but we have to give flowers to the guys today. So there are a couple conversations that I feel like I'm over and I think just need to be deaded. MJ versus LeBron debate. I don't care anymore. Whether styles you stand on, whatever, congratulations. Nobody's mind is changing. And everybody, a lot of people have their own agendas and different reasons for why they're picking said players. Never about the actual talent. Face of the league.
That's number one.
And comparing players from different eras. I don't think, being a fan of the game for so long and knowing about the history, as I've gotten older, I'm like, man, I've realized like it's really not fair to compare and say a guy like Pistol Pete Maravich wouldn't do damage in today's game. When you actually go back and look at it, what he was doing with the Rock at that time, his shooting, his ball handling, that was different. Everything is about evolution. So without a Elgin Baylor, there's no Dr. J. Without a Dr. J, there's no Michael Jordan. Without a Michael Jordan, there's no Kobe, Vince Carter. Without a Bob Cousy, there's no Pistol Pete. Without Pistol Pete, there's no Isaiah Thomas. There's no AI. There's no Steph Curry. I can go on and on about these comparisons. Will Chamberlain, Bill Russell, KG, T-Mac. They've given way to the KDs that we see. Larry Bird, LeBron. And so for me, just to start this off, because I have points that I want to make to really dig deep into why I feel this way, but I don't think when we talk about different eras and comparing players, I don't think it's all the way complete, and I don't think it's all the way fair to guys who paved the way, who didn't have the luxuries of what players have today when it comes to training and visualizing icons of today. Like I was able to see AI and envision, okay, I can do this. We can work on this. That leads to a guy like Steph and Kyrie, like guys who continue to elevate the game and do new things. But back then, if you watch some old clips of Bob Cousy, he was doing some crazy passes too now. That back in the day, it's kind of sick. I saw one clip, he did like a casually half, he pulling up mid-range, just a little hook shot, just easy, and some chucks or PF flyers, whatever they were wearing. I do feel like some guys transcend eras though. Will Chamberlain, best believe, yeah, that's like it's Giannis pretty much. Bill Russell would do work. Elgin Baylor, Oscar Robertson, Dr. J, Isaiah Thomas, Pistol Pete with the 3-point line. What are we talking about here? And so guys each era they have guys that can transcend any era. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, they would all do the work. And so for Rich Paul to say they didn't even have the shoes to handle what Kyrie does, well, of course they didn't. But all things will be equal if Kyrie played back then because Kyrie didn't have the benefit of seeing Allen Iverson or clips of Isaiah Thomas, clips of Pistol Pete. guys that and one mixtape. He didn't have the luxury, he wouldn't have had the luxury of seeing guys like Hot Sauce and AO because they've had an impact on Quiet as Kept. Those guys have had an impact on what we see today too. And
Mhm.
so, just like rap, when rap started, it was like a hit, a hot, a hit. Like, okay, that was dope back then. You have a Rakim who sort of slowed down the flow. You got Nas, Jay Z, and and so it's all about evolution. And so, I just hate when they say, "Oh, they're playing against plumbers." I mean, that's kind of disrespectful, and kind of not because when I was watching an old clip of the Celtics Lakers finals from the '60s, and these were some good athletes to that time. Like these guys, they weren't, you know, comparable to what we see today. Obviously, they're not running as fast and not jumping as high. But Bill Russell was pretty impressive. Will Chamberlain was pretty impressive, right? They're doing these in Chuck Taylor's PF Flyers. They don't have the greatest personal training. Probably wasn't even a thing coming up as kids back then. Now these kids have
Yeah.
personalized, individualized training.
They was
Back in the
smoking
day, these guys had
cigarettes
to
in the
go
locker room
drinking beer. These guys had to shoot
at,
on the
at
crate
halftime.
in the summertime instead of working one on one individualized skill. They're at the playground, Rucker Park.
Like hurting
They're
their
at
knees,
hurting
scratching
their
their knees.
knees. They had to go in the dirt yard in the back, shoot on the milk crate. You know what I mean? But they were still hooping. And so for me, I'm done with comparing eras. Yes, you talk about the greats and the legends of each era, but to compare, it's just not. I don't think it's fair to the guys from the 50s and 60s and 70s. 80s on, then you can say, okay, that's like sort of like it's becoming modernized, right? Because I think pre MJ and post MJ, that's when it's like, all right, things starting to change now. It's more of an above the game thing. So yeah, I just wanted to start off with that.
Yeah, but even in the 80s and 90s, right? To add to your point about just being aware of what you could do. Like you spoke on Kyrie. What would Kyrie look like in the '60s without seeing some of the ball handlers before him? Like we know he learned a lot from Rod Strickland. Well, Rod Strickland
Mm-hmm.
didn't play until MJ's era. He wasn't
Mm-hmm.
in the own. You know what I mean? So before, even on top of that, you got to think a lot of these players didn't have that in their mind because they weren't really. It wasn't encouraged to play like that.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, basketball, even in the '80s, you watch the Celtics play. Basketball was very dribble less, pass more. Let's get good shots. Let's get to the basket. It wasn't a whole lot of ISO. It wasn't a whole lot of step back, James Harden type stuff
Mm-hmm.
because that's just not how the game was played. It was looked down upon actually. A lot of people that if you don't, a lot of people that like see the problem is a lot of people don't know the history of the game. That
Mm-hmm.
was looked down upon. Like even at the high school level, it's so many. If you just go, like around to like it's a lot of older guys that be like, yeah, we like playing at the playground, because we could really express ourselves. We could play free as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
playing for our high school team or our college team. If we try that in a game and we miss, we're coming off the bench. Shoot, if we make it, we might be coming off the bench because it's
Mm-hmm.
just bad shots. You know what I mean? So that's another point to add too. But on top of that, the whole thing about comparing eras is we'll just never know. That's
Mm-hmm.
just the real honest thing, the truth. Like we'll never know what a MJ versus Brian matchup is going to look like. We can say Brian does this, MJ does this. The reality is we're never going to know. It's funny
Mm-hmm.
because me and my boys on the game one night we was playing a team up on 2K and we were using it was like the 1960s All Stars
Mm-hmm.
versus like
Yeah.
the 2010 All Stars, and it was John Havlicek on one team and then the Dejounte Murray on the other team, and somebody was like, "Bro, Dejounte Murray better than John Havlicek for real?" Like, and we all like, "Yeah, he's better than him." Of course, if they lined up 1-on-one,
Yeah.
Dejounte Murray would probably cook John Havlicek.
Yeah.
But in reality, if DeJounte Murray played back then in his era, we don't know. We're not talking about the DeJounte Murray that we see today. We're talking
Right.
about a DeJounte Murray of the '60s. We don't know what it would look like because he might be dribbling, looking weird like him. He might be dribbling. You know what I mean? Because that's what he sees. Like imagination, like you said, the evolution of imagination has gone so far with these players now. Like nobody was thinking. They see that's why I hate when people say, "Oh, Steph couldn't play this, that, and the third era." He could because his shooting is so great. But at the same time, Steph had to be encouraged to shoot like that by Mark Jackson. Coaches
Mm-hmm.
weren't encouraging players to shoot like that because we had a guy like Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying he's Steph, but if you watch him play, he
He could
could
shoot it.
shoot.
Yeah.
Even Larry Bird, he didn't take as many threes as these guys are getting up 11, 12 threes a game. Larry Bird was probably taking what, two, three?
And Larry was a problem too.
Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, even Ray Allen early in his career wasn't taking a lot of
Mm-hmm.
threes per game, but we still know he's a top two, top three shooter of all time. And it's just that's where we're watching the game and knowing what's really going on. A lot of these guys just weren't given the capability to do certain things. So the whole Eras convo, the truth is, like you said, evolution in basketball is a thing, right? Also, though, you gotta understand a lot of these players are more athletic because that's just the way things go. Now we got kids that are in middle school dunking. We got kids that are 6'5", 6'4", middle school dunking. You know what I mean? I don't even know what the stat is, but I'm sure the average male height at some point was is taller than it was
Of
years
course.
ago. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And that's just how the world
Nutrition
works.
is better.
Nutrition, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? The way these players take care of their bodies, like yeah, we see. Like I was having an argument with somebody about LeBron and how he has a crazy points record, and I said we don't know. Somebody
Mm-hmm.
years from now might break Bron's record because if you got Bron laid the blueprint out.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of your body. Stay away from this. Put $1 million into your health. It's a player somewhere that's might not even be born yet. 20, 30 years from now, somebody's going to be like, this is what Bron did. You could do the same, play longer than him, break his record.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to call him the GOAT because he has the most points? Or are we just going to say that's evolution?
Right.
You know what I mean? We can't do that. So, and that's no disrespect to Bron. His longevity is crazy. But
Yeah,
the
for sure.
reality is, we're going to start. He's not the. He's Stephen Curry is what?
James
How old is Steph
Harden.
now?
James
How
Harden.
old is?
Steph will
Yeah,
be
even
30. He'll,
Harden
he'll
still.
be Steph will be 37 this month, I
And
think.
you telling me Steph can't? You can't tell me he can't play to 40 and still be a league?
He definitely can.
KD. KD,
Yep.
like what I mean, we're going to see more and more of these guys because of just how health is. Just how the recovery and training is. More guys that are going to be able to play longer. That's just the reality of it. So the whole Eric convo, man. Of course, Dejounte Murray is going to cook John Havlicek if we just drop the current Dejounte
Right,
Murray
of
in the six.
course. Yeah.
But that's
Of
not how
course.
it works
That's not
because it
fair to
just
do.
wouldn't. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work like that because 50 years, well, not even 50, 10 years from now, it's going to be a player that does everything that John Murray does, but is 10
Yeah.
times better than him, just off of athleticism and
Yeah.
skill. You know what I mean?
That's
So
that's
it's
like
just how
saying,
it
oh,
goes.
if J. Cole and Curtis Blow had a rap battle, J. Cole would win. Well, I mean, yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course he would.
Right,
But
right.
put J. Cole in the time of Curtis Blow
You don't know what
and
it would look like, right?
him being in, unless he's right, because like I said, every era have guys who transcend their craft. Rakim switched
Right,
it all. Dr.
right,
J switched it all. Michael, like
right,
there are Will Chamberlain, like these are guys, Pistol Pete, like certain guys, okay,
right.
that's the new standard now. This is how we should play. This is how we should rap. This is how we should do anything in your like technology. The
Yep,
phone,
yep,
like the phone when it first came out was this crazy invention. Oh, let's put a phone in the car. Let's have car phones.
yep,
Oh,
yep.
let's get a beeper. How about we have a telephone, flip phone?
Flip phone with minutes on
How,
it.
how about a BlackBerry?
Yep.
And we got
Sidekicks.
touchscreens. And
Yeah.
so
And the thing
every
about that is some people still might like those old phones compared to these phones just off the
yeah,
nostalgia piece. And it's not wrong with that, but
yeah.
at the end of the day, this phone can do more.
Right. And so I saw a cool graphic on Twitter. Matter of fact, I'm gonna send it to you now because it was like a which era wins type of thing. I said that silent generation. I'm about to send it to you now. Um, it's kind of tough. So the Gen Z era is Jason Tatum, SGA, Wembanyama, Anthony Edwards, Luka Doncic. Millennials: Steph Curry, LeBron, KD, Jokic, and Harden. Gen X: shout out to my guys, Kobe, Duncan,
Mhm.
KG, Shaq, AI. That's my era for real, for real.
I'm in
Baby
the mix of both.
boomers, MJ, Akeem, Magic, Charles Barkley, Larry Bird. Silent generation: Bill Russell, Wilt, Oscar, Jerry West, Kareem. That's a
Hoopers.
crazy. That's a
That's
crazy lineup.
Hoopers.
That's a crazy
That's
lineup.
Hoopers. That's a crazy lineup.
To me, the best matchup would be Gen X versus Silent Generation.
That's Gen X is Jordan and them.
Nah, that's baby. Gen X is Kobe, Duncan,
Oh,
KG,
Kobe.
Shaq, AI versus Russell, Wilt, Oscar, Jerry West, Kareem.
Yeah, that's
Just
yeah,
that
just
front
because of
court
the
matchup.
yeah, the front court, yeah. And the guard matchup for that matter too.
Oh yeah, AI Kobe versus Oscar and Jerry West. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Um, so looking at that silent, look like Russell, Wilt, Oscar, Jerry West, Kareem. You're gonna tell me that you're gonna pick any generation and say comfortably they're gonna win.
Right.
Like,
Just off of the front court alone and what we know they could do.
and all 5 of those guys, I can put them in any era, and they still
And
gonna
they're
get their
going
games off. If you
yeah,
give them the same training, the same technology, the same footwear, the same just benefit of being inspired by the older generation, what we see with Wembanyama, that's Wilt.
yeah.
like
That's Will. He
Wilt,
seen KD shooting. Right.
like Wilt was a track and field athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was high jumping crazy. Like go do your YouTube, like research on Wilt. But I mean, these guys were crazy back in the day. Bill Russell was an athlete. Oscar Robertson was a bigger guard.
Yeah.
So this big point guard thing is not new. Like you had Magic, you had Oscar Robertson. Like these were the guys who were like bigger guards, bigger point guards for their time. And so for me, it's like it's just a tired conversation. What I think the proper conversation is who are the GOATs of each era.
Mm-hmm.
That's a more fair because we're able to compare them relative to their peers, their environment, the evolution of the game. To me, that will do them justice because having conversations like Rich Paul is saying pretty much, yeah, he was giving them credit, but he was sort of slighting them as well because he's like,
Yeah.
if you put Kyrie back, then it would be over. Well,
Well, duh.
you're being
But we don't. Yeah.
disingenuous
Right.
because you're looking at us. You're not, that's surface level. Like obviously, yeah, of course. But if Kyrie is just coming up and he's watching a Bob Cousy, if Bob Cousy is the best point guard of that time, he's going to pattern his game off of Bob Cousy. So what are we talking about here? So that's just,
Then you gotta think about the players that are in the wrong eras. Like I think about a guy like AK-47. If he
man, he
was
would.
playing, if he started in today's era as a rookie, we could be talking about him as like a top 15 player, as opposed
Man.
to he was an all-star for a few years, but nobody like people know he was good. People don't view him how they should. Like you think Draymond is a beast, like on what he does. AK is that with
AK was.
shooting, you know what I mean? Taller, might be faster, all that. Like people don't really
Yep.
know. I think about a guy like Jahlil Okafor. If he played back in the '90s or something, with his post game, who knows? It
Yeah.
just you never know. Like players are just good at what they're good at, but you can't really. It's just hard to debate.
I mean, I think about guys like AI, Baron Davis, Steve Francis.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they were playing, it doesn't seem that long ago, but it wasn't that. Why it wasn't like a spread out game.
Yeah, it's crowded.
Like the game wasn't running gun like we see today, and they were
Yeah.
still putting up numbers.
Yep.
Smaller guards too. Like these guys were 6 feet, 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", getting up. Like I just imagine these guys in today's era that's so open, the pace and space, what they were able to do. Just watch AI's clips, man. He was getting these half court, he was getting these middies off. Smallest dude on the court going to work in a
That's
much
right.
more
SJ
physical
get a
game.
lot of that from AI. People don't
Of
peep. He get a
course.
lot of that from AI.
And so we got to start giving credit to the people who did it before. Today's game, like I think it seems like there's no room to appreciate the past or the present, but you got to appreciate each era for what it
Yeah,
is.
you gotta appreciate everything.
I love the history, and I love what's going on today and the evolution. But you're not going to disrespect the guys who paved the way and that have allowed you to get paid the way that you do. Like these guys weren't on chartered private planes. These guys had to take bus rides to these games. Some of these guys probably had to work part-time jobs when the season was over. They weren't getting paid like they didn't have these endorsements. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, you just got to keep it honest with it. Like Will Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Jerry West, Kareem, Oscar, Bob Cousy, Pistol Pete, Elgin Baylor. Like we gotta, we gotta really. I want to. Maybe now's not the show, but I want to have a conversation on Tim Duncan and how I think he's slighted a little bit when it
He
comes
always,
to.
but we knew that we can have that convo. I love Tim Duncan, but
we can have the convo.
We knew that was going to happen. Just off of, I knew it was going to happen.
If
but
I
the
say
real no, I always say the real
he's top 5, I don't think that's
gonna
crazy.
They're gonna look at you crazy.
But if we want to go resume and stats, Tim Duncan has one of the best resumes ever.
If they want to go Ben for Ben, Tim Duncan up there.
Hold on.
If they want to go off of just what he like, yeah.
I'm gonna just like since we're here now, whatever. 5 championships, right? 5. Mm-hmm. That's more than most of your favorites. 3 Finals MVPs. 2-time MVP, 15-time All-Star, 10-time All-NBA first team, 3-time All-NBA second team, 2-time All-NBA third team. So guess what? He made the first team in 98. He made the third team in 2015. That's longevity, right? 8-time All-Defensive first team, 7-time All-Defensive second team, Rookie of the Year, college Player of the Year.
Yep.
Like, come on. What are we talking about? Top 5 resume. And you talk about his peers of that time, KG, they speak highly of Duncan.
Dirk,
Shaq, like they speak highly.
Everybody knows.
Chris Webber, like they know what it is. And so, yeah, we got to have a conversation. Like, I know everybody has their own top 5, top 10. I'm going to put it out there. If Tim Duncan is the best power forward, he's widely held as the best power forward.
Oh, yeah.
If he's the best at his position of all time, why can't we put him in the top 5? That doesn't make sense to me.
If somebody, honestly, if anybody ever told me they had Tim Duncan in top 5, I would not bat an eye.
And honestly, I might have told you this before. I think Steph is top 10.
Yeah, I mean, listen, after that Celtics finals, to me,
that was the one.
He deserved, you could put him in there. Like, if somebody put him in there, I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad at all. Just if you look at how he changed the game, and he proved that he didn't need a crazy super team to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He had nothing else to prove.
And that's the thing, though, with top 10 lists, right? Because it can always change. Because if you put Steph in, somebody has to go. Who are we taking out? Are we taking Oscar out? We taking Elijah Wan out? We taking, Dr. J out? Like, I think Dr. J has a conversation for top 10 of all time, right? He just doesn't have the championships to talk, to match up with some guys. But I think what will remain the same, MJ will always be in the conversation. Russell, Wilt, Magic, and Bird. Those guys will always, and Kareem, those guys will always be in that conversation.
Yeah, Brian, right? Kobe.
Yeah, Brian and Kobe. Those guys, Shaq, those guys will always be in that conversation. So it's interesting conversation. Everybody has their own preference, right? But I think all in all, what it comes down to is a better framing of it would be, let's have a top 10 of each era. That would be a fun discussion. Top 10 of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2020s.
And people will start saying that you'll have better debates because
it's a tough comp to narrow down the top 10 each era. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah,
that's tough. Like,
hard to do.
That's hard to do.
You got to think about everything. You got to think about all the players. You got to think about players that may have had a shorter run, but at like a Derrick Rose, right? His run wasn't that long, but are you really going to say it was 10 players? We're going to peak for peak. Was it really 10 players better than him at his peak? I don't know.
Does Westbrook?
We got to do that. We got to do that.
Does Westbrook?
We got to do that one episode. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll dedicate a show to each era. We'll start at the 60s, 70s, 80s. Like, we really got to do our research, like really dig deep, because there's some deep cuts. We talk about the 70s and 60s. Like, there's some guys that I think that's a better conversation. I want to see more of that. You know what I'm saying? So we talk about NBA discourse and the media. That's what we're talking about. The same old tired conversations. Oh, MJ versus LeBron, face of the league. Oh, eras, whatever. I don't care. Let's have like legit forward thinking conversations that make sense outside the box. And so, top 10 of each era to me, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that probably. We'll give us some time to like research and really dive in. And we won't even do it in an order because I don't even know if order is fair, right? Like, it's just because how can I say Bill Russell is 3 and Wilt's 4? If I use the rings conversation, Bill Russell should be number 1 then because he has all the rings. So how are we basing it off of? Is it rings? Is it talent? Is it impact?
Yeah.
It's because if it's rings, then Tim Duncan should be top 5 then. I mean, if it's resume, Tim Duncan should be up there with Kareem, MJ, and LeBron. You know what I'm saying? So interesting conversation. I'm glad we came up with that. And we'll each 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s,
2000s,
2010s, 2020s, and 2020s.
Well, they still going though. I don't know.
2020s. Well, yeah,
they still going. We should stop at 2010.
Yeah, we'll stop at 2010 because 2020s is still being written. I can tell you right now, I would put the Joker number 1 in my 2020 right now.
Joker's in there for sure.
Like he that's another name. Like when it's all set, if he wins 2 more rings, where do we put Joker at with the numbers that he's putting up? Like, who are you taking out of the top 10? Who like it's just it's ever changing. It's ever growing. But it's fun though. It's fun though. That's a wrap for this show, y'all. Thank y'all for listening and watching. Don't forget YouTube, Apple Podcasts. We on there. Like, subscribe, share it with your family, your friend groups on the phones. Enjoy the rest of these conference tournament games. Your Nova Wildcats, I think they're playing UConn right now, so tap
Everybody
into
will
that,
tap
see what
in
they got going on. And
for
yeah, we'll talk
sure.
to y'all next week. The brackets will be released. Going to be a lot of hoop. I can't wait. Y'all enjoy it. Be safe. We'll talk to y'all next time.
Peace out.